project explores the impact of politics on Nicaraguan society and sheds light on why we should value its importance as Nicaraguan citizens.
So, hello, Mr. Quinones and ANS community who is going to get to listen to this presentation. My name is Claudio Rosales, and today I'll be presenting the final panel presentation on my research paper, which is titled Nicaragua, a Never-Ending Cycle of Conflict. So, my core values and essential skills, first of all, on the left, we have intellectual curiosity, this project undertook a lot of research. It took me an entire semester of research, actually. So I was really able to delve into topics that interested me personally, that I feel that aren't as explored upon in our school's curriculum, maybe for safety reasons, maybe for whatever reasons they may be. However, I decided to undertake this project on my own and do my own research, come up with my own conclusions. And I feel like that's where a lot of my curiosity came up in starting a project and developing a project on my own. Then in the middle, we have global awareness, because while I wrote this paper in the context of Nicaragua, which is where I've lived my entire life and what has interested me the most throughout these couple of years, where the social political crisis has been raging on, and this happens everywhere in the world, especially look in Latin America. Over the last year, we've had social uprisings in Venezuela, in Bolivia, in Chile, in Honduras, in El Salvador as of right now. It's ridiculous. It really gets out of hand, and it puts it into context. My paper puts it into context, and my project entirely puts it into context that, hey, while we may have it really bad, we're not the only ones that have it really bad, and many, many millions of people around the world, and even within our own region in the world, have it bad or even worse than us. And finally, the essential skill that I developed upon the most was interdisciplinary research. For my entire project, as I previously stated, I did a lot of research, and I had to kind of combine resources from a lot of different places. I read books, I read articles, I looked at surveys, I looked at data banks, everything from history to politics to sociology to philosophy to anything that you can think of probably was involved in one of the research was involved in the research phase for my project. So there was a lot of everything. So that is why interdisciplinary research comes up as the most important of the essential skills of my project. So what is the problem? What is the problem that I noticed, and what was the first thing that clicked in my mind? Like, hey, I can do something about this, or at least I can attempt to do something about this. The problem was that I realized that throughout Nicaraguan history, there was a pattern that repeated itself over and over again. And this pattern was that there was really no progress at any point in time. Nicaragua has been stuck for the majority of its history as a developing nation with no real progress. And every couple of years, to mark the end of a regime, there's always a very violent uprising of the people. There was a civil war in 1926. There was a civil war in 1979. There was a Contra War. Then we have the social political crisis that started in 2018. And I realized, hey, what if there's something that we as Nicaraguans can do in order to stop this? How can we stop this? So that's where I started thinking, and that's where I started contemplating and pondering, how can I write this paper? And how can I see, and how can I pitch a solution in order to improve upon the Nicaraguan community? So these are some statistics that back up what I've been saying. Here we have a screenshot taken from the World Happiness Report, and this screenshot basically says that Nicaragua, per the statistics that they measure, is the 45th happiest country in the world, and it's ranked above developed nations like Argentina and South Korea, which in truth doesn't make any sense. How are we happier than a country where their GDP is 5 times higher or 6 times higher or even 10 times higher than the GDP that is in Nicaragua? And if you look deeply into the breakdown of these statistics, it shows that the biggest categories are social support, and the smallest category that should be a bigger category is perception of corruption. So Nicaragua ranks really, really high because of the social support that the government gives the Nicaraguan people. And it ranks really, really low on perception of corruption, which should be really, really high if you take a look at the news or if you're aware of what's been happening over the past 2 years. So looking at resources like this, I started noticing, hey, there's a trend here. People are aware and people are conscious of what's going on in our country. However, it doesn't really seem to matter. People are still happy. People are still living on with their lives. So I started to look deeper into it. And I realized that from the 2011 elections all the way to the 2016 elections, approval rates for the current government only dropped by 3.5%, which is kind of ridiculous given all the social injustices that went on in that 5-year period. So these were a good basis for me realizing, like, hey, there's something clearly wrong here. And at the moment, it clicked that although Nicaraguans are aware of the things that go on in their country, they choose to do nothing about it. They choose to not get involved in politics. So my solution to this was making a research paper and citing, hey, and exposing more like it, hey, these are the things that you're doing wrong. These are the things that you've been doing wrong in the past. And this is how we can change it in the future. It's very simple. I wanted to put it across as like cause effect, not necessarily cause effect, but this is what you did. This is what happens. Stop doing it. And it's very easy to grasp and understand that we have to change the way that we behave as Nicaraguans. We have to change the way that we act and that we educate the future generations. So the progress of my work, basically derives into several different phases. First of all was the research in semester one. In semester one, I did a lot of research. It took up most of the semester, and towards the end of semester one, I started planning for the writing process that I was going to undertake in semester two. And throughout this entire time, I was in meetings with my mentors, my in-school mentors, and my out-of-school mentors, which were extremely helpful throughout the entire process. And then in semester two, I started writing. This took me the majority of semester two up until late April. And right now I'm in the publishing phase, and the publishing phase is kind of like up to interpretation because I plan to publish it within school, and then I plan to publish it when I get to university, as I'm currently in contact with several history and politics teachers and social studies teachers at the University of Pennsylvania, which is where I will attend. So here we have the title or the cover page of a book that I read by Mr. Enrique Bolaños, La lucha por el poder, and on the right we have the abstract of my paper. Then I have proof of progress or in the meetings. On the left, we have notes that I took at a meeting with Mr. Enrique Bolaños, and on the right, I have notes that I took at a meeting with Ms. Meyer, who is my in-school mentor. Then some proof of progress on my paper. On the left most, you can see my title page. On the right, on the middle, you can see my table of contents, and on the far right, you can see my introduction. I obviously am not going to present the entire paper in this presentation. However, if any of you wants to see it, Mr. Quiñones has access to it in my Capstone folder, and he can share it with any of you with no issue with my permission. Just be sure to not share it to anybody who would compromise my safety. And finally, the impact on the ANS community. As I previously mentioned, I plan to publish it within school. So what this means is that I'll be meeting with Ms. Mayer over the next couple of weeks in order to see how we can implement it into the ANS curriculum to better educate ANS students and the future generations on what are some of the mistakes that we've been doing and what are some of the things we can do to help safeguard the future of our country. So thanks for watching, and thank you for all your support to any of you who gave me support throughout this entire process, and thank you.
This project is an excellent way to inform yourself on how politics have affected Nicaraguan society. So take a look at it and be enlightened.